All right, we are live with an edition of the Weekender. My name is Harsh. You're watching Sports and Information. Let's see what the world has for us and how have we ended this week. So let's see. All right, let's focus on some national news, some information from the national platforms, and largely we follow the AIR, that is All India Radio. Uh, these guys post very interesting threads on their X profile, and it is usually, I would say, verified information because it is coming from the national government website. So let's see what do we have in store for us. Starting with Chhattisgarh. The state of Chhattisgarh has been reeling under the problem of Maoism and left-wing extremism from the time of its conception. Very recently, there was this encounter with security forces. So these forces are Central Armed Police Forces, CISF, and CRPF, and a bunch of other paramilitary forces. These forces, they had an encounter with Maoists, and 8 Maoists have been gunned down. And very unfortunately, there is also one of the soldiers who has died. One Jawan of the Special Task Force and 2 other security personnel were also injured. Okay, so we have covered this quite extensively in many of our past live streams. These are Maoists are manifestations of left wing extremism. People subscribing to I would say, the left end of the political spectrum. They usually subscribe to the Maoist ideology. So they think that they are espousing a good cause, but their means are not very citizen friendly. So yes, the security forces, they uh, keep on consider them as threats to the national order, and hence you know they have been gunned down, and there seems to be no solution in sight for them. The government, and regardless of the government at the center, be it the Congress, be it the BJP, all of them have tried some level of negotiations with the left wing extremists such as Maoists. But the such problems, it keeps on persisting. We don't have a lot of we are not making much of a headway. Next up is Smriti One is an earthquake memorial museum in the city of Bhuj in the state of Gujarat. Okay, they have come up with this memorial in the city of Bhuj in the state of Gujarat. And this memorial, it commemorates, and it's been constructed as a tribute to the victims of the Bhuj 2001 earthquake. So there is a memorial that they have developed, and yeah, this memorial, it commemorates the lives and people, those who have lost lives in the Bhuj earthquake. It's a very interesting place to see. The pictures are amazing. So yeah, if you want to visit Bhuj, I would say you should really, you know, look at this. So the exact post was Prime Minister and Narendra Modi expresses delight over Smritivan earthquake memorial in Bhuj Earth, making it to the world selection for the UNESCO. Oh, okay. Let's see how well it goes. Okay, it also says that Union Home Minister will chair a high-level meeting today to review security situation in the state of Jammu and Kashmir and preparedness for the Amarnath Yatra. It's kind of an irony and an anomaly that in a democratic secular state you need to employ soldiers of the military to you know guard the natives from the extremist militants and the fundamentalists subscribing to the Islamic ideology. You have to employ, you have to, keep military soldiers on foot to protect the pilgrims. And we are being told day in and day out that terrorism has nothing to do with religion. Then why exactly are they attacking, pilgrims? Okay. Next up is, yes, the G7 summit, the talk of the town. G7 has been, it's a group of seven countries that subscribe to the same ideology as United States. When I say ideology, I mean to say their political dispensation, how they work, and who all are their adversaries or competitors. So G7 is a group of wealthy democracies of the West. There is only one country from the Asian continent, that is Japan. And yeah, so they met in this country, that is Italy. And all of the leaders of the countries had a very fruitful dialogue. At least that is what we read from the press statements that have come out from the leaders who have attended it. Our prime minister had also attended this event, and he also had bilateral talks with the member countries such as Britain, other countries as well, even Ukraine, and all these countries. They had a bilateral talk. Yep. So the key points, or the key issues on which all these leaders discussed was the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Obviously, the Ukrainian leader, that is Zelensky, has been a very fervent advocate of rallying Asian leaders towards his side of the argument. That is, uh, trying to pull more leaders on his side. So, and trying to isolate Russia. But the only sticking point in this strategy is Russia has very fine relations with countries of Asia, more particularly Bharat and China. So it would take a lot more than simply visiting and shaking hands with leaders of the country to rally them to their cause, I would say. Because Asian countries, if you look at it in a broad landscape, Asian countries have better ties compared to the West. They have larger territories, they have larger trade relations, cultural relations. So it would be difficult to overcome this barrier, okay, that Asian nations share. And it's easy to isolate Russia when you focus more on the European side, but it's difficult to isolate Russia when you focus on the Asian side of the world. Okay. So yeah, that is. Next up is Kuwait fire. Okay, the Gulf country of Kuwait. All the mortal remains have arrived here, and I would say prayers out to all the people who lost their lives. Prayers with their families who lost their lives, and yeah. So it's a very unfortunate incident that these incidents occur, and it's very unfortunate. These are the people who went there in search of a better life, who went there to earn money for their families, for their people who are living here in India. So in Bharat, I'd like to correct myself. So yeah, and if you see, Gulf remittances are among the topmost remittances that we receive. So there are few people from the state of Uttar Pradesh and from the state of Kolkata have died. Majority of them obviously belong to the state of Kerala, because we know that there are uh, multiple people, multiple families who settle over there in search of a better life. So yeah, there was a fire in a building where majority of the workers stayed. Next up is, in one of the previous live streams that we discussed that, you know that there are multiple people who were killed. There are multiple people who were killed in a raid conducted by militants in a remote area of Congo, the Democratic Republic of Congo. Now it has come to the light that Islamic State has claimed responsible for attack in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo's North Kivu province. Okay, somewhere close to 42 people have died, and Islamic State has uh, claimed responsibility for this attack. Now, keep in mind, Africa. This is not something that has come up very recently. Africa has been reeling under the consequences of fundamentalist Islam from, like, I would say 40, 50 years. And correct me if I'm wrong, this has been a very frequent problem over there. Congo is just one example. If you look at countries such as Ethiopia, Sudan, I would say, so there are problems related to militancy arising from fundamentalist Islam all across these northern European countries. So yeah, so Islamic State has claimed responsibility for these attacks, and yeah. Next up is this was quite surprising when I read it for the first time. There was a gold robbery on Canadian airport. Okay, so it was a movie money heist style robbery that was undertaken on Canadian airport, but now the perpetrators have been apprehended. Okay, a former Air Canada manager who is wanted for his alleged role in a $20 million gold heist is preparing to turn himself in. Okay, I'd like to correct myself. The perpetrator wants to turn himself in. The lawyer who is representing the person, the manager, he was a former employee of Air Canada, and so the name of that person is Simranpreet Panesar. He is facing charges in connection to April 2023 theft from Toronto's Pearson Airport. So there was a theft of gold, and the gold was worth somewhere close to $20 million. And the person who is allegedly responsible for that theft is Simranpreet Panesar. He is right now absconding from Canada, and he, through his lawyer, has made this application that he is willing to come back and face the law. All right. He is anxious to have an opportunity to demonstrate his absolute innocence. They bill to steal a cargo arriving from Switzerland of 600 gold bars weighing 400 kg. Okay, so they very well knew that there is something that is coming in, and they need to seize it. They seized it, but now the law has caught on to them. I would say the fear of law has caught on to them, and hence Panesar, through his lawyer, has requested that I am willing to surrender. Let's see how this story unfolds. Next up is the country of Philippines. Keep in mind, we covered this in many of our previous live streams, that Philippines is a country that is engaged in a very big, I would say, a very big conflict with China. Now, keep in mind, China as a country has an expansionist policy. So 14 of the land neighbors of China, including us, has this land disputes and border disputes with China. Philippines, unfortunately, shares a maritime boundary with China, and China is very much eager to assert its dominance on a water body that we like to call it as South China Sea. Now, South China Sea has some naval proximity to this country of Philippines. Obviously, Philippines is an island country, so uh, it has some or the other interest in securing its borders. And let's see how well this goes. So Philippines military chief urges fishermen to ignore China's new Coast Guard rules. So China has come out with this new Coast Guard rules. China has had this habit of unilaterally making rules for other countries as well. We have experienced this in the case of the northeastern states of Arunachal Pradesh and Arunachal Pradesh, and even Nepal, Himachal Pradesh, and even JNK for that matter. So China has this habit of unilaterally changing status quo on border countries. Same thing is with Philippines. Philippines is currently reeling under the unnecessary and irritating effects of Chinese naval dominance. Okay, let's see what else do we have. Wait a minute. Let me just pull up the window. Okay, just a second. We are go. Hmm. All right. So very recently, people. Okay. Um, So there is this author, a self-proclaimed author named Arundhati Roy. She has been the highlight of the mainstream media, and more specifically, the left liberal ecosystem. She has been the flag bearer of the left liberal ecosystem, and she has been like blatantly, blatantly anti-Bharat in the media as well, and all the other social media platforms as well. Even her writings are supposed to have something that is very much hostile to the identity that is Bharat. Now the lieutenant governor of Delhi has sanctioned that she can be prosecuted under the UAPA Act. For those of you who don't know, UAPA is Unlawful Activities Prevention Act. This act is used, I would say, this act is used to prosecute people who malign or have malicious intent towards the image of Bharat. And she has done this time and time again and time out. And some of her statements, some of her public statements include that Pakistan army is a moral army. I would really very much encourage all of you all. There is this report out there on the internet that is easily available, Humudur Commission report. I very much encourage all of you all to just Google it. It is available on Wikipedia. So Humudur Commission report is a report that has been done by a Humudur Commission, and that commission was led by Supreme Court judges of Pakistan. Okay, this is not me speaking. This is Supreme Court judges of Pakistan. They have come up with this Humudur Commission report. In that, they have on record explicitly mentioned it was Pakistan army who ordered rape and killing of women in Bangladesh during the Bangladesh Liberation War. The height of atrocities that were committed on civilians was like beyond imagination. Okay, and this has been publicly accepted on record explicitly by the judges of Supreme Court. So if you still think that the Pakistani army is a moral army, I would say you are living under a rock. Okay, so Arundhati Roy has been a very fervent advocate of Pakistan. She is in love with the idea of Pakistan. She has been very public about belittling and disparaging our army, the National Armed Forces of Bharat. She has been like very blunt in her criticism for the army. Now I would I understand that every citizen has a right of expression, and right of expression includes that you can criticize government bodies, but keep in mind, when you criticize armed forces, okay, you are crossing over into a territory where democratic rights don't hold too much water. So you can criticize political leaders, you can criticize MLAs, member of parliament, you can criticize politicians, but when it comes to armed forces, you need to keep your mouth in check. You need to keep your words in check. You cannot just blatantly and outrightly criticize army as people who use. And these are her statements. This is not me who is making these things up. She has criticized the Indian army for according to her. All right, according to her, it is Indian army who is raping women in the state of JNK. And she has made many statements that has inflamed the and inflamed the upper echelons of the army. And it's right that now sanction has been given to persecute her. So let's see how well does she cope up with the legal repercussions of her own words. I really think that right now in some corner of her home, she is, crying somewhere and thinking that why didn't I watch my mouth when I spoke such bad about our national army. Let's see what comes out of this. This is okay. Next up is the union minister, that is Dr. Jitendra Singh. He has come out with a statement saying that we have produced somewhere close to 40 quantum technology startups. Quantum technology is considered to be the technology of future, and it has immense information technology applications and even military applications. So I'm not an expert on quantum technology, but from whatever preliminary and internet research that I did, from what I understand and gather from the information that was given to me, is that quantum technology uses the principles of quantum physics. Okay, so let's say you know every radiation has quanta. These quanta, these are units. Now there is some information that you can put into the smaller units that will like broken the code that was enigma. So everything depends on communication when it comes to military. Now quantum technology has this ability, has this unique ability to encode an information, and only a person who has a key at the other end can decode that information. So, quantum technology has far reaching consequences when it comes to military applications. And this union minister has made a public statement that we have had 40 quantum technology startups in 2 years. So, I would say, yes, technologically, we have a lot of ground to cover if we are to stand at par with Western European countries and China, even for that matter. But we are making strides in the right direction. So, we'll see where this goes. Next up is G7 nations pledge support to specific infrastructure projects like Middle East, Europe economic corridor connecting Bharat. Okay, now keep in mind, uh, this is central points of negotiation between, or the central points of why these G7 countries have come together is number one is Russia Ukraine, number two is the industrial overcapacity of China. Okay, now at the core of industrial overcapacity of China is its unique ability to invest a lot of money due to its industrial overcapacity, of course. Now what China is doing is it is building logistic structures all through Asia and connecting those logistic structures to Europe. So this will just add up to its industrial overcapacity. When these projects, these infrastructural projects that will aid the logistical ability of China, when these things are finished, all right, China will be able to easily supply its goods, and the capacity that it has is mammoth. Okay, now it will be easily able to supply these goods to the European countries, and obviously when these things will happen, it will pose as a competition to its native industries. So the answer that Europe has to these overtures that are made by China is Middle East European economic corridor and connecting this corridor with Bharat. Okay, so this was also one of the points that G7 countries discussed in very recent meeting. I would say it is, yep, that is what it is. They vowed to tackle what they called unfair business practices by China that were undermining their workers and industries. So yeah, uh, this is it. So they are fighting against this industrial overcapacity that China has. Let's see how well these things, you know, how well these things turn up, because it is indeed a problem for the entire world when it comes to industrial overcapacity of China. Now, there is a very interesting thing happening in the South African country of China. Imagine in an election, BJP and Congress form a coalition government. Yes, you heard it right. Two opposite sides of the political spectrum forming a coalition government. The same thing is going on in the country of South Africa. Okay, in the country of South Africa, there are two political parties named ANC, that is African National Congress, and the other one is DA, that is Democratic Alliance. Now, African National Congress is more like a left leaning liberal type of a Congress, and Democratic Alliance is considered to be a white majority party. Okay, keep in mind, South Africa has had a history of apartheid. Okay, the close to 7 to 8% of the white population had dominance over the rest of the majority black population. But after the 1990s, they have ditched this idea of apartheid, and now it is considered to be a democracy. This time around, in the national elections, the ANC party, that is African National Congress, led by Cyril Ramaphosa, they failed to get the majority figure in their national assembly. Due to that, they have resorted to forming a coalition with the Democratic Alliance. So it's like Congress forming a Democratic Alliance with BJP, but yes, they have formed an uneasy coalition. Some of them are obviously not happy. Okay, now, what's very interesting to note over here is there are other political parties as well, but they refuse to form a coalition with ANC. The other two political parties that refuse to form a coalition with ANC are Left Economic Freedom Fighters, Economic Freedom Fighters, and the other one is mm, DA. Okay, that's fine. Yeah, so let's see how well this, uneasy coalition government that they have formed, let's say, how well do they govern their country. But yes, South Africa has had this history. The people in the DA, that is Democratic Alliance, who has a white majority, it has been perceived as somewhat unfriendly towards the non-white population of the South Africa. So let's see where does this coalition lead them to. You can never know with these politicians. They make one kind of a statement in the public, but they end up doing something, and they always have something to justify their actions. So political leaders cannot be trusted, or at least they cannot be taken on their word. You need to really read between the lines when you decode a statement by a politician. So here is one post that he put up on X, one of the leaders from DA, the white majority party. The melanin quotient of the DA leader is least significant aspect of the historic agreement. They consider this as a historic agreement because this is the first time that the two parties belonging to the opposite ends of the political spectrum, they are coming together to form a coalition government. So let's see how well this thing goes out. Mm. Okay. Now, for those of you who are, not aware about the map of Africa, let me just give you a brief idea about. There are two countries on the northwest part of the continent of Africa. One is Niger, that is Niger. Another one is Benin. Okay, now Niger is a landlocked country, does not have any opening to a water body, whereas Benin has. Okay, so it's logical that these country would have some sort of understanding to allow Niger to, use its land borders, use its water body to for trade and other purposes as well. Now Niger has large oil reserves. China, okay, China has signed the China National Petroleum Corporation has signed a deal worth $400 million with a company in Niger to supply its oil products. Okay, so imagine this: an oil pipeline in a landlocked country running through another country. Okay, now these two countries are obviously going to have some or the other problems. Now what happened is these two countries aren't exactly on friendly terms. Okay, very recently, this is all of this is an allegation. There are no convictions over here, but very recently, Benin, okay, allegedly caught some of the nationals of Niger. They, broke into the premises where there was an oil pipeline on the territory of Benin, and they were fixing something. So Benin confronted them, and they said that they were doing some regular maintenance work. But Benin has opposed that they were doing it without any knowledge of theirs. So if they are in on their territory, they have to be informed about such things. But yes, this has led to a wider misunderstanding between the two countries, and Niger has halted oil pipeline exports to China. Okay, now let's see how, what sort of diplomacy China does to, sort this matter out between these two countries. And also, Niger has closed down its borders to exports from Benin. Okay. Okay, very recently, in one of the past live streams that we did, we had discussed that the Russian naval vessels, one is Gorshkov and another is a nuclear submarine, that they have reached Cuba. Okay, now if you have a general, preliminary, a rudimentary idea about the world map, Cuba is a country that is situated, or it's very much close to United States. Okay, it is a country, it is a communist country, no less. And if you follow world history, you know that there is inherent, I would say, I wouldn't use the word hate. Okay, but for the lack of a better word, let's use it. So USA has this inherent hate towards communism, and Cuba is a communist country. Okay, so during the heights of Cold War, there was this Cuban missile crisis that were precipitated by the Cold War between Russia and USSR. And so there is this legacy of Cuba joining arms with Russia to counter United States, and Russian naval vessels joining Cuba is not exactly a friendly signal towards United States. And so to counter that, okay, so to counter that, now there is a United States attack submarine that showed up uninvited on the shores of Cuba, and also there is a Canadian patrol vessel. A Canadian Navy patrol ship sailed into Havana early on Friday, hours after the United States announced a fast track submarine had docked at its Guantanamo naval base in Cuba. Okay. Now, keep in mind, USA has, United States has made this declaration. Even Cuba has made these declarations that the Russian warships that have docked on the Cuban shores have, they're not hostile. They are not here to, express naval dominance in United States backyard. It's just a regular thing that they've been doing, and they have deep relations with Cuba as well. All right. So there has been this statement by Russian Defense Ministry. The Admiral Gorshkov frigate and the nuclear-powered submarine Kazan, half submerged with its crew on deck, sailed into Havana border on Wednesday after conducting high-precision missile weapons training in the Atlantic Ocean. Okay, now obviously this is, like I would say, it's military flexing by Russia. It has there is a subliminal message underlying over here that yes, we can reach your shores, although not with the same naval capacity as you, but definitely we can inflict one or two punches. And yeah. Mm. So the Canadian Joint Operations Command called a port visit in recognition of the long-standing bilateral relationship between Canada and Cuba. Okay, it's no surprise that you know United States and Canada's military and naval vessels are showing up right after Russian submarine and frigates are docked at the shores of Cuba. All right, that's all about it. One very interesting thing that you need to know over here, as the United States submarine that showed up on the shores of Cuba, it showed up unannounced. Okay, on the level of international politics, the freedom of naval navigation is obviously it's obviously implied. But whenever you show up on the shores of other sovereign country, you definitely extend. You definitely tell them that okay, we guys are coming. But Cuba's foreign ministry has said it had been informed on the arrival of US submarine but was not happy about it. Okay, let's see. So they weren't exactly invited. So imagine this: you throw a party at your home, but somebody arrives unannounced, and they ask you, "Okay, can I join?" Obviously, you're not going to say no, but you haven't invited them in the first place. So yeah. All right. Next up is. Oh wait a minute. Let me just share this. Just a minute. Just a minute. Just a minute. Okay, we are back. Okay, Singapore oil slick closes beaches on resort island. Okay, okay. So what happened was, okay, so there was a dredger in the water bodies. It undertakes dredging. Okay, when the dredging is a procedure where you clear some land below the water level in an ocean. So there was a dredging vessel. It belonged to Netherlands, and it was doing something in the water bodies, and it went and struck a Singapore flagged bunker vessel. Okay, so that bunker vessel had was carrying some oil, and that oil spill has shown up on the beaches of Singapore. So yeah, so there has been an oil spill, and the authorities in the Singapore are working double time to clear that oil spill from the Singapore beaches. Yep, that's all about it. Hmm. Okay. Now let me take you back towards, I would say, COVID times. So rewind, let's say 3 to 4 years backwards. You'll see that there was some hostility between the countries of, China and Australia and New Zealand. Okay, Australia and New Zealand were very hell bent on holding China accountable for the spread of COVID, whereas obviously China denied it outright. China said that no, we had nothing to do with COVID, and there were diplomatic hostilities on both the sides as well. And so right now, the Chinese authorities are on a damage control mode. They are trying to salvage the relationship with Australia and New Zealand because they have realized that we need a working relationship with Australia and New Zealand for that matter. Because if they had to present some counter towards the West, it needed some good relations with Australia. And the leverage over here is China is the topmost trading partner for Australia and New Zealand as well. So New Zealand also has some self interest and some motive to salvage its relationship with China. So the Chinese premier, okay, the nominal head of the Chinese state, that is Li Qiang, he has been on a visit to New Zealand and Australia both. Okay, now let's start with New Zealand. Okay, New Zealand has this immense dairy capacity. It is the world's number one country that produces a lot of dairy products, a lot of meat of premium qualities that is preferred by the West. And now, following on the lines of that, it's also even preferred by China as well. So, the Chinese premier Li Qiang visited New Zealand, and yeah, he visited some of the dairy farms over there. And New Zealand has a considerable and significant amount of expertise in the areas of dairy and beef and lamb products. Okay, and China obviously is importing a lot of dairy and meat products from New Zealand. So yes, the Chinese premier is salvaging the relationship that it has with New Zealand. And coming from New Zealand, the Chinese premier has also stopped over in the island country of Australia as well. Australia is also a top, trade partner for China as well. It is importing a lot of goods, so it goes both ways. China and Australia has been exchanging a lot of goods on both ways. Okay. So in Australia, very recently, okay, China has been lending or providing pandas to Australia. Yes, the animal that is panda. So it had provided a pair of pandas to Australia's Adelaide Zoo. Okay, now the 1 year contract is expiring. So China has also committed to provide new pair of pandas after these two are returned back. Okay, so there is this. Okay. Okay, Australian Foreign Minister Penny Wong said Lai's visit was really important in showing stabilized tie between the two major trading partners. It comes after 2 years of very deliberate, very patient work by the government to bring about a stabilization of the relationship. Okay, so they've said that yes, both the parties have accepted yes that in the past there was some hostility related to the relationship between Australia and China, but now they are trying to salvage and make amends. And it's called panda diplomacy. China is providing panda to Australia. Some of the activists in Australia have also called it as panda propaganda. Yeah, so there are some underlying apprehensions in relation to China among the Australian people, but let's see how well do they navigate this diplomacy. Hmm. Next up is this G7. Okay, now in the previous live streams, we have covered this quite extensively. That G7 usually talks about, the common problems that the West has with others. One of them is the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Another one is Chinese industrial overcapacity, and also the next one is okay. So yeah, they also warned Tehran about its nuclear adventurism. This is also one of the problems, one of the festering problems that the West has been, trying to counter. Yes, this is the statement. These are the exact words I'm quoting verbatim. We urge Tehran to cease and reverse nuclear escalations and stop the continuing uranium enrichment activities that have no credible civilian justifications. Okay, now the in the very in the ongoing Hamas and Israel conflict, remember Iran is also one of the stakeholders in that conflict because there are some ties between Hamas and Hezbollah that that touch Iran somewhere. It has been alleged that it is Iran that is funding all these militias that are not exactly Israel friendly. And friendly is a mild way of saying it. They aren't in favor of the Jewish nation. They want complete annihilation and destruction of the Jewish nation. So yes, having to have. So let's see again how West manages to check this Iranian nuclear adventurism. It is said that obviously, Iran is further ahead in its nuclear enrichment process. It has already, enriched nuclear. It has already enriched uranium up to 90% purity. That is what is required for a weapons grade, uranium. It has already done this. It is alleged. So let's see how well are we able to keep Iran in check. Okay, next is um, okay. Now, we have also seen this in our country as well. People take to streets to protest against a lot of things. But in France, like we have discussed in the past live stream, there was an election going on in the European Union, where the citizens of these countries voted for its representatives in the European Parliament, wherein we have seen that it is the right end of the political spectrum that is clearly in the lead. Okay. Now, sensing this, the French leader, that is Emmanuel Macron, had summoned snap parliamentary elections. Okay, now this is considered to be a political tactic. Do not give time to your opponent to consolidate its lead, and hence he has called snap parliamentary vote. He is under the impression that will not allow our competitors to consolidate their strength and consolidate their lead. And yeah, so we have seen. Okay, there are thousands of protesters who are marching through the streets of Paris and cities across France to protest against the far right national rally. Okay, so the far right political party in France is called National Rally, and they are protesting against it. So they are protesting against a political party, not against any, I would say, um, any issue, any decision taken by the government, but they have come out on the streets protesting against a political party. Okay, let's see how it goes. Sweden. Okay, Sweden and Iran exchange prisoners in a breakthrough deal. Okay, negotiations have yielded. Okay, both the countries had some of their prisoners. So the negotiations have yielded some results. So Sweden and Iran has swapped some political prisoners that both the parties had on its side. Uh, I would say it was Oman, the country of Oman, that acted as a mediator in the prisoner release. So yeah, that's about it. So there are many political countries. Okay. All right. That's about it for today. I'll see you in the next video. Thank you. Let me